Carrie has tried to fill everything out and it still won't let her in.
I'm still waiting on Steve.
Shannon or Rhiannon, can one of you call her, or I'm not sure what to do with this, or have Kit call her?
Well, she just needs to follow her email link that she got.
She got originally an email link that gets
She
her.
did, and she's following it. Bob had the same problem, Jason had the same problem, and it's not going through. I'll resend her. I can send her mine.
Steve's having trouble as well.
Here, I'm gonna resend them.
You can try another machine.
And then
We are experiencing technical difficulties. The meeting will start momentarily.
can somebody check their email? Follow the link from Zoom.
If anybody has Carrie or Steve on the phone, please tell them to check their email. There is a new email link in there from Zoom that they need to follow.
Did that just go out?
Yes. We now have Carrie.
Thank you. Are we good to go, Shannon?
We are good to go.
Well, we apologize. We had some technical difficulties. Councillor Thorson was finally able to get in, and Councillor Anthony is still trying, but we do have a quorum. So with that, I will call the meeting to order. And we started the meeting with a budget workshop, and we're now in our regular meeting. Shannon will note that all council members are present with the exception of Mr. Malloy, who is excused, and Mr. Anthony, who should be joining the meeting in progress. Tonight we do have a proclamation. National Police Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. And whereas members of the law enforcement agency of the City of Post Falls play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Post Falls. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of the law enforcement agency, and the members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the law force agency of the City of Post Falls unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, the Post Falls City Council calls upon the citizens of Post Falls and upon all patriotic civic and educational organizations to observe the week of May 10th through the 16th, 2020 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observations in which all of our faithful people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and securities of all citizens. Now therefore I, Ronald G. Jacobson, Mayor of the City of Post Falls, do hereby proclaim the week of May 10th through 16th, 2020 as Police Week, and call upon the citizens of Post Falls to observe the 15th day of May 2020 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who run through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community, and have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respects to the survivors of our fallen heroes. And the only thing I noticed is that we are a week late, so I apologize for that. I don't know if the dates on this were incorrect, but I still think it's important that we recognize our law enforcement officers. So thank you very much on that. And we do have a few announcements. In observance of Memorial Day, the Post Falls City Hall and city business offices will be closed Monday, May 25th. Police, fire, and rescue services for life-threatening or in-progress emergencies may be reached by calling 911. The police department will be open for walk-in emergencies, and for water department emergencies, call 208-773-3517. There will be no trash pickup on Memorial Day. Following the Memorial Day holiday, trash pickup will fall one day late and return to normal pickup schedule on the following Monday. Due to the COVID-19 restrictions, the format for the annual Memorial Day ceremony at Evergreen Cemetery was changed to meet current state protocol. American Legion Post 143 will post flags on veterans' graves for Memorial Day. On Monday, May 25th, the American Legion Post 143 members will be at Evergreen Cemetery from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. to hand out Memorial Day brochures. At 10 p.m., 12 p.m., and 2 p.m., at 10 a.m., 12 p.m., 2 p.m., taps will be played and the bell will toll. The public is encouraged to place wreaths at the wall. Post 143 is offering 2-foot yellow ribbons for messages to be written and placed on the bottom of the flags. Ribbons are available at Post 143 and will also be available at Evergreen Ceremony on Memorial Day. Flags and wreaths will be removed Monday evening at approximately 6 p.m. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are none tonight, sir.
Are there any declarations of conflicts, ex parte contacts, and site visits? Linda?
Yes, I'll recuse myself from the Elm Road zone change to avoid an assumption of a conflict of interest, as Bobby Wilhelm is my second cousin. I'll also recuse myself from ordinance number D, Wildflower Meadows zone change, for the same reason. One of the owners, I'm related to them. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Shelley, would you present the consent calendar, please?
Item A is minutes from the May 5th, 2020 City Council meeting. Item B is payables April 28th through May 11th, 2020. Item C is annexation agreement, grant of right-of-way, and grant of easement for Tedder annexation. Item D is professional services agreement with All West for boardwalk geotechnical evaluation at Black Bay Park. Item E is frontage improvement waiver request for 603 East 16th Avenue. Item F is Tranquil Meadows annexation agreement, grant of right-of-way, grant of easement, and master development agreement. Item G is addendum number 1 to the annexation agreement for Prairie Crossing West and Post Falls Station. Item H is contract with 5 Star for the 2020 street overlay ADA ramp improvements. And item I is contract with JUB's engineers for design and construction management of roadway and sanitary sewer improvements along Prairie Avenue and Spokane Street.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I'm concerned about the design or the construction management, I guess, if you will, of the contract. Going back to the pole line Grange, we had JUB do the design work, and that was done, but we didn't get any grant funds to fund that construction. Now we're moving on down the road a little bit closer to a more impactful subdivision, being Crown Point, and trying to get that intersection done. But to me, it seems like Grange to pole line is still an integral part of an important traffic corridor for improvement there. So I'm wondering when we may be looking at construction to bring that all in to the same road, if you will, for improvement there.
Mr. Paulus.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. So with the design portion, you've already covered what we're building on Prairie and Spokane Street. With the construction, we would include the portion from Pole Line Avenue to Grange Avenue, and the project management fees in that scope include the project management through construction of that portion as well.
Very good. That answers my question. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. Any other questions? Al?
I had a question on item H, and this is the ADA ramps. Are these, is this to replace existing ramps, or is this to put in ramps that never were there?
Waiting for someone to pop on here.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Beecham.
Yeah, and seeing if Ross was able to jump on, but I think I can cover this. This is to add ramps where there are not currently ADA ramps. So there is either a ramp that's not up to ADA standards, or there's no ramp at all. And this is a requirement anytime we go through and pave a section of road, we have to make all of the ramps ADA compatible. Ross, I see you're on here. Did you want to add anything to that?
Any other comments, Ross?
That's exactly correct. They're either not ADA compliant currently, or they're not there.
Answer your question, though?
Yes and no.
Good.
For the ramps that aren't compliant, why aren't they compliant? Did they change the rules, or did we build them years ago when the rules were different, or?
Yes, they would be old ramps that do not meet the current ADA standards. We have to bring them up to the current code whenever we do construction directly adjacent to them.
So is this a major change to these ramps? It just seems like a lot of money to go through and change them if they're an inch or two too narrow or something. Is there any way to push back on this, or is this a slam dunk, got to be done?
This is a slam dunk, has to be done. The ADA requires it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
I would move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, would you please take the roll?
Thorson,
That was you. Carrie, you're muted. There you go. Shannon, start over, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Thank you.
Borders,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And just so you know, Mr. Anthony was still having trouble, and also didn't know if he could sit through the meeting due to his surgery, so he probably will not be joining us. Next up on the agenda is public hearings. Tonight we have three. Shannon, our clerk, will notify anyone who is testifying as their time is approaching the end. And with that, I will open the first public hearing, which is Budget Amendment Number 1, Fiscal Year 2020. I'm assuming that's Jason.
Yeah, that's me. It looks like I am. Here we go. I don't know if you can see my screen yet.
No, we cannot.
Jason, you're not sharing your video, so I think you might need to go back and share your video for us to see your screen.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
All right. Video started. All right. Can you see my presentation?
No.
Oh dear. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
All right. This is the first budget amendment for fiscal year 2020. I'm Jason Faulkner, Finance Director, for the record. And we had so many public hearings last council meeting that I had asked that I could be moved if needed to, because the others were more important than just as a housekeeping item. So the information in your council packet showed the council, showed the public hearing last council meeting, but I just wanted to show that I revised my, by law, I have to advertise for a public hearing, and I was changed to the 19th. So this shows my advertisement for the 19th, so that I'm law compliant on amending the budget. We have a few items from fiscal year 2019 that we wanted to roll over and expend those funds for fiscal year 2020. Out of the three funds, one was a polymer upgrade of $90,000 out of Fund 650. 651 was outfall upgrade, which was $3,190,320. And out of Fund 652, it was the construction of the Howell Lift Station of $1,266,517 for total expenditures of $4,546,837. These were not spent last year, and so, like I said, the request is for the budget to be, for you to authorize me to bring back a budget amendment next council meeting to amend the budget and spend these funds then. And
Any questions of Jason on this?
I would move to accept fiscal year 2020 budget amendment number 1.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Thorson,
Carrie, would you unmute, please? There you go.
Aye.
Thank you.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Oh, you know, I forgot to do something. That was a public hearing. Shannon, was there anybody wishing to testify?
we have none.
We okay on procedure then, Mr. Wilson?
We are, there was no one signed up.
Okay, well, the public hearing is officially closed and the motion has been made. Thank you. That was error on my part. Next item up is a public hearing on the Green Meadows East subdivision appeal, and I will open the public hearing on that.
If you can hear me, my video has been disabled, so I can't share my video right now.
We can hear you.
Where is he?
There we go. Now I'm going to be sharing a screen. All right, so can you see the slideshow?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Jacobson, Council President Wilhelm, John Manley, Planning Manager here to introduce the staff report for the Green Meadows East subdivision. This is an appeal. This was heard before the Planning and Zoning Commission and is now before you. The case file is issue BD 2019. The owner and applicant is River City Properties, with the applicant being Eric Olson of Olson Engineering. The request is to subdivide approximately 19.14 acres into 69 single-family residential lots. It was January 14th is the date that the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this and had denied their application request. The proposal that they brought forward is part of an annexation that has recently been approved to be within the city of Post Falls. What you see in blue is that extension of what the red's the annexation. It's an R1. And so they're contiguous along this red boundary. And what their interest is to subdivide an area, what you see here with the R1. So it would be, the proposal is an R1 subdivision in an area zoned R1. You can see it here in hatched, the general location of this project. It's somewhat midpoint between Greens Ferry Road and Cecil Road along the northern side of Kildare Lane, south of Prairie Avenue. Currently, the land is used for agricultural uses. There's no known significant characteristics physically that would on this project worth mentioning. Water provided by Ross Point Water District. You've seen in your staff report that there was a will serve letter providing that service to the site. Sewer provided by the city of Post Falls, and the proposed lots, the 69 lots with a density of 3.61 units per acre. So when you look at a subdivision, you're looking at 6 review criteria. I'm going to go through the first 3 here. One is definite provisions have been made for water supply systems and adequate in terms of quantity, quality, and the type of subdivision proposed. You see here that the Ross Point Water District said that they could provide service, and that's part of their will serve letter. The second one is provisions for public sewer, and you've seen within your staff report that there's adequate capacity to provide sewer service to this site. The other one is proposed streets are consistent with the transportation elements of the comprehensive plan. In the staff report, there was some commentary of how this proposal meets the needs within the city of Post Falls. I would comment that a part of questioning, Rob Paulus is present to answer some more specific inquiries regarding the transportation network. You can see here this is the proposed subdivision with the Kildare Lane to the south. There's 4 entrance points, and then they were providing future connectivity to the north for their next phases. You saw in one of the conditions, and I'll talk to it a little bit more detail later in this presentation, that the staff does recommend a connection though from this project to the east. We have received a subdivision. It's the Hingston property, but it's now known as the Perdera subdivision. So that's to provide that continuity and connectivity within the multiple subdivisions that adjoin each other. So the 4th criteria is looking at whether or not all of the areas of the proposed subdivision involve any soil topographical conditions presenting hazards. None have been identified on the site as inhibiting the development of this site. And is the area zoned for the proposed use? And I went over that a little bit in the introduction where we saw that R1 zoning. And this site is, the subdivision meets all the criteria for the zoning. All the lots meet the minimum sizing of lots. It's 6,500 square feet. There's also a condition of having a minimum lot frontage of 60 feet, and they meet that as well. So all the lots are in conformance with zoning, the zoning aspect of the sizing of the lots. The 6th one deals with no development. All development should bear its fair share. And with single family subdivisions, that's paid with impact fees. There's the public safety, streets, and parks element of the impact fee, and that's to mitigate their impact on the community. Once again, that this 6 review criteria, they're the important elements of looking at a subdivision. Is a subdivision that's being applied to the city of Post Falls, does it meet the criteria for approval? And so, and if it fails on one of those 6 criteria, that's when there's an issue with the proposal. Here's that proposed condition that I mentioned, that it was condition 7 dealing with that connectivity to the project to the east. Staff does propose an amendment to condition number 7. So what you see at first, that's how it's currently worded. Issue with that is block 7 is in a different location. So the location of block 8 and 9 of block 7 is block 7 as depicted. Staff's proposing maybe we just say that this project be connected to the project property to the east, the Perdera subdivision, there's the file number from Laverne Street, and that is denoted here as Laverne Street as. So we just provide the connection at the appropriate location, coordinated with that development to the east to bring that synergy. Agencies that were routed on the subdivision is, as you see here, the Post Falls Police Department commented, and they're neutral on the project. So would you have any questions for me as part of the subdivision at this point, or potentially Mr. Paulus?
Any questions, John or Rob? See none. Does the applicant wish to speak?
The applicant wishes to speak. Can you hear me?
Name for the record, please.
Name is Eric Olson. Oh, there we go. There I am. I have didn't clear that background. All right. So Eric Olson, civil engineer, Olson Engineering, and address 705 South Riverside Harbor Drive, right here in Post Falls. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, just to recap quickly, a little bit of overview here. The area highlighted in the red, that's Green Meadows subdivision that's been approved. It's been nearly all constructed, and final plat will be recorded shortly on that. The area in green is the 40-acre, more or less, annexation that we went through last year. And this subdivision request is on the south, we call it the south 20 of these two squares, 1, 2. So again, here's our proposal. This one actually shows our plan for the north 20 as well, with a single access out onto Prairie Avenue. And of course, the 4 approaches onto Killdeer Avenue. So John went through the subdivision approval criteria. First one's water, second one's sewer. We've got will serve on that. We've run utilities through the first subdivision in order to accommodate this subdivision and the future 20 acres to the north. I skipped number 3, I'll come back to it. Number 4 has to deal with soil and topographic conditions. We have none of those extreme conditions that need addressing. Number 5, area zoned for this use. Yes, it's R1. We're proposing single family residential development. And number 6 is basically, yes, we will pay our impact fees. If you look back at the reasoned decision from the Planning and Zoning Commission, they agree, and I think everybody has agreed that we've met 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And so we need to focus in on criteria number 3. Criteria number 3 says proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to read from the reasoned decision why Planning and Zoning didn't feel like we were consistent with that. It says, based upon a testimony from the neighbors on Killdeer Lane, it's P&Z's determination that as presented, the proposed subdivision conflicts with policies 1, 6, and 8 because the construction, upgrading of Killdeer Avenue would not contribute to the livability of the community due to the increase in access points and through traffic. The increased traffic flows would not be safe or efficient to the neighbors due to the 4 additional access points onto Killdeer. The negative impacts to the neighboring 5 property owners south of Killdeer have not been minimized according to the testimony of the residents. And they go further in that reasoned approval that say that basically they would have approved the subdivision if we would have had 2 access points onto Killdeer instead of 4. So I'm going to throw this up for a refresh. These are the 4 access points that we're talking about. There was quite a bit of opposition from the neighbors to the south, the 5-acre parcels in the county, just concerned with the number of approaches, and they have greater concerns. They like where they live, it's peaceful, and they're not enjoying to see the development go in all around them. And so I'm going to start kind of comparing 4 approaches to what 2 approaches would look like. So you might envision, well, if we wanted to make this 2 approaches, we might leave this one here. You guys can see that, and do something similar that we're doing up here. Connect the road through, put down a couple of knuckles, and then that gets rid of this approach onto Killdeer. Question is whether or not that makes sense. So this is the roadway functional classification map from the city's transportation master plan. And you can follow my cursor here between Prairie Avenue and Bluegrass. That's where Killdeer Avenue is, and it's shown to be a minor collector. Pulling from the transportation master plan, minor collector streets are primarily intended to serve abutting lands and local access needs of neighborhoods. And I've highlighted in the table of access management standards that the minimum spacing between intersections on minor collectors is 250 feet. Hopefully you can see this. This just shows the dimensions or the spacing between our proposed intersections. And so in the interior, those 3 approach spacings are 331 feet. We would have 348 feet to the newly constructed Britton Road to the west. And as it's laid out, we would have 318 feet to the first proposed intersection from the Adat subdivision that John mentioned. So I'm pointing out here that we're in compliance with the 250-foot standard. I wanted to show some examples throughout the city of other intersection spacings along minor collectors. This is Killdeer Avenue just to the east, just north of the Tullamore subdivision, and I believe it's the city park parcel right here. So you can see we've got intersection spacings over here varying between 210 feet up to 368 feet. Here's another one I picked this one because I drive Ponderosa quite a bit, living on that side of the interstate. And there's quite a random smattering of intersection spacings here, going from 108 feet up to 524 feet in this stretch of Ponderosa just east of Greens Ferry. And here's another example. This is 12th Avenue, which is also a minor collector, located north of the interstate, just east. This is between Spokane Street and Henry Street. And this is kind of set up on the traditional street grid. And those grids are about 375 in the east-west direction, and they're about that in the north-south direction in this section anyway. A lot of the grids turn out to be just like we have, 330 by 330 feet, just because of the way land gets subdivided down from the original section into equal pieces. And there's one more example. This was actually the public hearing that was just prior to our hearing, which we got denied. This is the Corbin's Meadows subdivision. This subdivision was approved. It's the same size, 20 acres, a little bit larger lots. There's more of them. It's on Bluegrass Lane, which is a major collector, not a minor collector. And they have 5 approaches onto Bluegrass Lane with spacing varying from 225 feet to 305 feet. Like I said, that was the public hearing just before ours. Their subdivision was approved and ours was not. The statement that I highlighted on the from the reasoned decision says the increased traffic flows would not be safe or efficient to the neighbors due to the 4 additional access points onto Killdeer. So I drew this sketch to illustrate why the efficiency comment frustrated me. Because as it's drawn right now, if you're the resident in lot 5 of block 1 and you want to go out to Greens Ferry, which you might, the quickest, as laid out, we've got a quick path. It's down this road, take a right, you're on your way to Greens Ferry. So if we were to punch a road through, as been suggested, through lots 2 and 11 of block 3, the same trip would cause the driver to head east for 330 feet, get down on the intersection, then you have another 330 feet that you wouldn't have had to travel otherwise before you're back to the same point. So I was just trying to illustrate that I really feel like our proposal is not less efficient. I think it's more efficient. There's other efficiencies there in that it requires less road. Yes, that's less road for the developer to build, but it's also less road for the city to maintain. Also, it's one less sewer manhole. Again, less infrastructure for the city to maintain. The question of safety, I spent a couple hours today on the local Highway Technical Assistance Council website. They have crash data compiled for the last 5 years for the whole state. It's really a nice tool. And so just to give you a little bit of a intro here, every one of these dots that you see is a crash that's happened over the last 5 years. And so this section is the same section I showed you earlier on Ponderosa. So with all those intersections right there, there was one crash in this sort of congested area near Greens Ferry. And then you had a few up in the neighborhoods. You had one over here on Greens Ferry, which also has a lot of roads punching through to it. This is that 12th Avenue area. I was surprised to see that there were very few crashes in the interior street grid between Spokane Street and Idaho Street. You can see that there are quite a few out on those roads. But those are major collectors, a lot of traffic, a lot of conflicting movement. That's not what we're dealing with here. And then this is, I believe, the Fieldstone Subdivision just to the southwest of our development area. And it's an example of a very large subdivision that has all the traffic funneled to major access points, if you will. And so you can see there's a few minor incidents scattered throughout. And it doesn't look like there's a ton of accidents at all the approaches except maybe for pole line. But there are some. So what can you conclude about, or what did I conclude about my review of the crash map? Just read my points here. It says, crashes do not occur at all intersections that are spaced between 250 and 330 feet. Crashes occur more frequently at busier intersections. More intersections may have a traffic calming effect, as we can see by the lack of accidents on the interior city street grids. It cannot be clearly stated that the number of total likely crashes is higher or lower with 4 intersections versus 2 more congested intersections. I guess what I'm saying there is I think that's a subjective argument. And if the safety concern is not definitive, I don't feel it's a reason to deny a subdivision, especially when there is so much precedence around the city. The last point I wanted to make with regard to future development. We know that the residents on the south side of Killdeer love where they live right now, and they'd like to see it stay that way. And it may very well stay that way for them for a long time. I think we'll all agree that eventually, somewhere down the line, one or more of these parcels will end up annexing to the city and subdividing. The way we've set up these 4 approaches is there's one in the middle of each one of these 5-acre parcels. There's a manhole and a valve cluster in the middle of each of these 5-acre clusters, or I'm sorry, 5-acre parcels. So it will be very easy for them to line up intersections that align with the ones we're proposing and develop, whether it's in a 5 acres or 10 acres or all at once, however it goes. And I included the area to the bottom or to the southeast over here just to show an example of how that's been done in other areas. These roads are set up at the same spacing that we have. And you can see these could have developed in 5s or 10s. They ended up developing in 10s with a street spacing pattern that matches ours. So with the long range goal of the city to grow and infill in this area, I think four intersections is better than 2. And further, I don't think it should matter for the approval of the subdivision. I think we meet the criteria, and I think we should be approved. And that's all I have.
Council, any questions of Mr. Olson? Seeing and hearing none. Shannon, anyone wishing to testify?
Yes, we do.
In favor?
We have 1.
Name for the record, please.
Go ahead, Scott Hogue.
Hi, can you see me?
Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh, well, that's a disappointment. Anyway, just wanted to, I live on Greens Ferry, right across the street from Green Meadows. And I couldn't be more pleased with how that project is going in terms of dust mitigation and noise control. And it just really has, done the community a great service. But more than that, I want to encourage more of these developments, these residential developments, because I'm a big believer in growth. And somebody says to me, well, it's got to be controlled growth, and I'm not sure what that is, but we either grow or you don't. And with the increase in population comes some economic benefits, and so those would be short-term and long-term. Short-term is people have to build these residences, and people have to drive the trucks and lay the asphalt, and buy the nails and all of that. But long-term, with an increase in population, it's going to attract other businesses, and that brings nice stable wages and revenue to the community. So the 2 things I have to say is growth is good, as long as it's controlled, whatever that means, and that the projects that are being done, boy, I couldn't be more impressed. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Hope.
Disappointed my face isn't up on the screen, but we're good.
Thank you.
You bet.
Shannon, anybody, that was the only one in favor?
Correct.
Any neutral?
We have none.
Opposed?
Yes, we do.
Name for the records, please.
Could Betty Eggers please click your raise hand button? We will try Jennifer Eggers. Please click your raise hand button. Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes. Name for the record, please, Jennifer.
Great. Sorry about that. My name's Jennifer Argraves, and I would like to talk to you today about the development. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of Idaho and Washington, and my parents own the property that is at the end of Killdeer Lane. And they've asked me today just to speak in terms of looking at the different issues along Killdeer Lane and in association with these items, basically going through the code and then looking at the number of roads that are on onto Killdeer Lane. Sorry, it's a little late in the day for me. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide. So first, I'll just start with that. So going through the comprehensive plan, go to the next slide, please. Killdeer Lane is actually, this is the one that's posted. It shows it as a dead end road and actually doesn't specify it as a federal functional classification. Go to the next one, please. Then here it shows Killdeer Lane is in the focus area of Highway 41 North. Next slide, please. Here it refers to the 2016 Highway 41 plan in terms of what happens in that area. Can you go to the next slide, please? And then with the Highway 41 Corridor Master Plan update, if you could scroll up, that's 2016. Go ahead and go up another one, please. Maybe, oh, I mean down, sorry. And here you can see, though it's small, you see Killdeer Lane isn't shown. Go to the next slide, please. In this plan, it goes through several different alternatives and through different years. And in all of those years, either it's as shown here as the lane that it is that currently, and since my parents purchased the property 50 years ago, has ended in their property. Let's go down to the next slide, please. So, or it doesn't show at all because it's actually not part of how the overall system is set up. When reading the plan, it talks about how the subdivisions within these, within the actual different, major and minor corridors and arterials, and how the subdivisions will work to, provide the basic needs of that subdivision. Can you scroll to the next one, please? In the Post Falls the Post Falls Highway District Transportation Plan, can you scroll down, please? This is the 2018. The current classification,
1 minute
again,
left.
here, none of these are shown for Killdeer Lane, and it also shows it not going through. Can you scroll down one more, please? And here, this last slide, this is for the 2025 Urban Federal Functional Classification. Again, Killdeer Lane doesn't go all the way through. And you can see here that all around where they're proposing the development, there are some really great options for tying into the proposed, major and minor collectors and arterials. Can you scroll down one more, please? What I did is I went ahead, my parents were given the far right subdivision just recently. My parents are the Argraves. The middle one is the guy that's doing it right now, and to the left is what the other guy is doing. So you can see how the property owners who, I know he's talking about it turning over, but—
Ms. Up, please wrap up your thought.
Sure. So if you want to scroll down, this would be our suggestion, is to one more up. This is to continue it through, actually have cul-de-sacs here, or knuckles as he calls them, and you would actually have be very similar to a couple of several of the other subdivisions where they're connecting to major, and then it's all within itself. And then this can be a corridor to maintain what these guys have, and also connect to a pedestrian connection to the park that is to the left. And if you scroll down one more, it just shows some pictures of of the community over the years.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Shannon, who do you have next?
Next
Mayor,
week.
did we have any questions for the last wit?
Oh, thank you. Any questions?
I don't have any questions for Mrs. Hargraves, but I do have some questions about some of the issues that she raised. I can ask Robert about that later, right?
I think if you want to ask staff, you could ask them now.
Okay. I'd ask Robert to tell us about what she was mentioning. It doesn't look like any of our plans talk about Killdeer Lane being a minor collector, but it is now.
Well, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. There were a number of exhibits that were shown, and I saw a number of different dates on some of them. Within the Transportation Master Plan, we do show that Killdeer Lane is a minor collector running from Highway 41 to Greens Ferry Road, and then west of Greens Ferry Road, it drops off from the functional classification. In the Highway 41 Corridor Master Plan, that focused on the north-south connectivity on the quarter-mile and the half-mile backage roads. And that's a study that was done several years ago. It did not take a look at that time as to what was going on as much with the connections of undeveloped roadways heading east and west. So from our master plan, we do see that as a minor collector roadway. If it was to be downgraded, it would still, within our road system, be connecting from Cecil Road to Greens Ferry and from Cecil Road to Highway 41. So regardless, you're either looking at a minor collector or a residential street with numerous connecting points. What we do see over time is that based upon the size of the parcels trying to get 6,500 square foot lots, you do tend to have a block spacing of about 300 feet or 250 feet, which is our minimum. Sometimes we fall a little bit below that. In this area, we do have some restrictions in that we have limited access that is going to be happening to Prairie Avenue because of its classification as a critical arterial, where the access to Prairie Avenue is going to be limited to quarter-mile spacing. And in reality, the only signalized or controlled intersections are going to be at half-mile spacing, such as the signal that just went in at Greens Ferry and Prairie. And then we are anticipating long-term that there may be a signal at Cecil and Prairie as well. Does that answer your question, Councilman Wolf?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up. So from what you just said and what Mr. Olson presented, he meets the criteria of the distance between those access points.
Our city code sets a minimum criteria of 250-foot spacing. So beyond that 250-foot spacing, if someone wants a further distance, our code says that would be acceptable unless we saw something that was creating an issue that we thought was going to be a significant safety hazard. From what I've seen on this presentation, they're not showing anything that's any different than most other minor collector roadways and how the spacing of the intersections occur.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rob. Any other questions? With that, Shannon, next person wishing to testify?
Warren, Ms. Agres would like to respond. Would that be allowed?
Give me a second here to get back on the mic here. So she had her chance during the 4 minutes of testimony. I don't know that there's a chance here for rebuttal.
Okay. Next would be Beth Agres. Go ahead.
Beth, there you go.
Yes. Yeah, this is, hi, my name is Beth Hargraves, and I live at 2900 East Killdeer Lane, the house at the end of Killdeer Lane. I live next door to my parents, and my parents had purchased the 10 acres in 1979 with the hope of retiring on it and living out their life. I'm the caretaker for their property, and I help my parents with anything they need. And we have made this our home, our family home, for so many years. And we're a small community here, and we share in the upkeep of the road, the water rights for our properties, a love for the area. We share in the beautiful mountains that surround us, and we all share in the hope that we can raise our children and grandchildren and care for our elderly parents in a place of security and serenity. We understand that the properties north and west of us will be developed soon, but we would like to preserve the character of our property, our community, and our quality of life. We also understand that people are moving into Post Falls, and they will need a place to call home. We want those people to have a safe and beautiful home like we do. But we also want to be able to keep what we have at the same time. And the way we can achieve that is by minimizing the impact that this development will have on our community. This is done by limiting the roads coming onto our dead-end road, Killdeer Lane. And also, when Jennifer was talking about the roads or the different plans, the different master plans of the 41 and the comprehension plan and the transportation plan, none of those, I mean, absolutely none of those, and they're the current copies of it, of what they're, even for 2025, none of them show Killdeer Lane as a minor collector, but it shows it as a dead-end road. It has no, I mean, it has nothing showing it going out or anything like that with future plans of it. And so that's what she is talking about there. But, and so I'm going to take you, can you start the pictures now and kind of scroll to the first picture? This is, I'm going to take you down kind of a trip down Killdeer Lane, so to say, so you can experience our little piece of paradise for yourself. Right here, well, if I go up one more, sorry. Go to the next picture. No, they go, yeah, the other way. Thank you. Okay, this was Killdeer Lane a few years ago when you first came onto the Killdeer Lane itself. There you could see Christmas Tree Farm, which had been there for years, kind of a historical landmark that represented Killdeer Lane and the people who live there. But now all these beautiful trees have been cut down in order for them to put a subdivision in. Right at the end of the tree farm, go to the next one, please.
1 minute.
Was actually an owl, which was obviously fake, but it was on the very top of the telephone pole, and it had been there for at least 30 years. And everyone who drove by there loved to see this owl on there. But it had been removed, and we've never seen it again. So it was kind of an icon for the Killdeer Lane. As we continue down Killdeer Lane, we come to the first home of Ray and his wife. They are a retired couple who have lived there for years. They're unable to speak tonight because they didn't have the internet. And of course, we have COVID, whatever going on right now. And so, so that's them. And then go to the next picture, please. Next one. Okay, and then this one is, the next one down would be, the next home would be Duncan and his wife and their mother, or her mother. And they have a cute little boy that they take care of, and they have animals.
Time is up. Please wrap up your thought.
So the next home past him.
Ma'am, your time is up. You wrap up, please.
Okay, well, my whole thing was that I really believe that, we all believe that putting the roads onto Killdeer Lane will increase the traffic by 1,000 to 2,000 more cars a day, and which is going to affect the pollution, the increase in crime, I mean, we all know about this stuff, but with the comprehension plan and everything, it shows that Killdeer Lane is a dead end. There's got to be another alternative, which we're willing to work with the developers or whoever in order to come up with a plan that will satisfy us and the developers at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Any questions? Seeing none. Shannon, anyone else?
I'd like to give Betty Airgraves one more chance. If you are on the phone, could you please speak?
Yes, I'm here with my daughter. It didn't work on my computer.
Name for the record, please?
Can you hear me?
We can. Could you give us your name for the record?
Betty R. Graves.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. My name is Betty R. Graves.
Yes, we have that. Go ahead, please.
And I live on 2900 East. Okay. Yeah, there's been a lot of things going back and forth and with the development, and you know, we know that people have to have a place to live, but it would be good for them as well as for us if we could limit the amount of roads that go on to Killdeer Lane, because Killdeer Lane is not a major thoroughfare. And to actually cut that road, to actually make the road going east like you're talking about, would be really detrimental to the area. Where if you kept it a dead-end road and then limit the number of roads that come on to Killdeer, it would make it easy. It would be nice for both the development as well as for us. And it would also help us maintain some of the type of community it is. And you know, and I know that the developers are kind of thinking that we're all going to sell, and maybe we will at some time. But this, you know, but going on that, it's like they're gobbling up everything. You know, and it's not with any real thought to the community and to how the place looks. You know, I just would like to see a little bit of thought go into it before you make a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions?
I have one real quick question.
Go ahead, Al.
Mrs. Argraves, have you or anybody else there on Killdeer Lane met with the developers and talked about other alternatives?
Just when we were at the meeting, we talked about some of the other alternatives, you know, because at the meeting we were talking about it because they were showing 4 roads coming down to my neighbors, you know. And I know they're developing the one right north of us now, but the 4 roads coming down to the neighbors, they actually went, if you come with lights, you know, headlights, it goes right into their windows. I mean, it's just like, you know, and we talked about, well, how about if we do 2 roads out of there, you know, and make it a different configuration. Which would make it a little less traffic and also not as hard on everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon, anyone else?
That is it.
Would the applicant care to rebut?
Yeah, just briefly. I think I've stated my case on the 4 versus 2. And just with regard to Killdeer, we're, you know, it's not our idea necessarily to have Killdeer go through as a minor collector. We're following direction from staff, and we're following direction from the city's transportation master plan, not Post Falls Highway District master plan, not the 41 master plan. And I guess I would say, I'm going to do a little screen share here. So I had this at the P&Z public hearing. So this is a page from the Highway 41 Corridor Master Plan update, and it basically just runs through the intersection controls at State Highway 41 that are proposed. And sure enough, there's Killdeer Lane punching through to Highway 41. So I don't agree with the statement that it's not on everybody's radar. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Olson? With that, I will close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to act?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I guess when we see these things where there's conflict between property owners, it really does come down to personal property rights. Mr. Olson and his team bought some property and they want to develop it, and it will have an impact on the Argraves and their neighbors. There's no doubt about that. Every time we build a house in Post Falls or any other community, it has an impact on somebody. I think that Mr. Olson has met the criteria that we as a city have set out for someone to build a development. And I think it should be approved as presented.
Thank you. Mr. Borders, comment?
I feel the same way. I don't see anything that would deny the thing. Based on his presentation, he's met all the city criteria, so I don't see any reason that we wouldn't approve it.
Okay. Councilor Wilhelm?
I would just say that based on the staff report and the testimony by John Manley and Robert Paulus, the city engineer, that it appears that this subdivision meets, if not all 6 criteria, the other 5. And I understand what the Argraves are going through. I've been here all my life and I'm in my mid-60s, so I understand the want and desire to have space around you. But unfortunately or fortunately, no matter how you look at it, Post Falls is growing by leaps and bounds. I think that the two roads coming out onto Killdeer, I don't see how that's going to reduce the traffic. It's going to reduce the roads, but it won't reduce the traffic because everyone in there is going to have to get out of there. So I'm going to be in favor as presented, as long as we amend that subdivision to add that it needs to be connected to the property to the east.
Thank you. Councilor Thorson?
Well, I don't know about the amendment to the east, but I read everything, all the testimony from the planning and zoning given by the public too. The Argraves were also, commented there, but I kept looking for the real reason that it had been denied by planning and zoning, and I must have missed it because Eric Olson in his presentation for the appeal of the decision was right where I was after reading all of that. So I would definitely be, and with all of the reasons that everyone has already said, I've lived here, I don't know, 35 years or so. And so I've seen a lot of changes too, but I would be in favor of, let's see, if it's an appeal, you grant the appeal. So that's what I'm in favor of.
The appeal, Mr. Wilson.
Let me jump in there. So the way we handle our appeals here is that if the planning commission makes a decision and someone appeals that decision, it comes to the city council and we do a de novo hearing. In other words, that's a hearing from scratch. So you're not necessarily approving an appeal per se. What you would be doing is making a decision on whether or not the proposed subdivision meets our 6 approval criteria for subdivisions. And assuming that you think that it does meet those criteria, you would make a motion that it meets the approval criteria, direct staff to prepare a reasoned decision and return that to you for your review and approval. If you don't think it does meet the approval criteria, that would be your motion and we would draft that and bring it back.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I'd entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the Green Acres East subdivision with the condition that Linda pointed out, the connectivity to the east.
Which was included, I believe, was it not, Mr. Wilson?
That I believe was mentioned by Mr. Manley at the end of his presentation, but that's, yes, that's listed.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Al.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. And the third final hearing is, the third public hearing is on the Elm Road zone change. With that, I'll open the public hearing.
You can all see the slide?
We can.
Yes.
Right. Once again, John Manley, planning manager here at the city of Post Falls, introducing the mentioned zone change. It's the Elm Road zone change, case file RZNE 4/2019. The applicant is Ace Solutions and the owner is Bobby Wilhelm. So the applicant is requesting for you to review and approve the requested proposal to change from what is currently the single family residential R1 zoning designation to the medium density R2 zoning designation. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval on the February 11th of this year. Location of this proposal is, as you see here, it's just north of I-90. If you know where Elm Road is, it's south at the dead end of Elm Road. Saltooth Way runs east-west just to the north. Currently, it's a single-family home on a large lot. There's no known significant topology or vegetation matters. East Green Acres, the water service provider, with the City of Post Falls providing sewer to that area. So we would look at the proposed zone change. We got 6 review criteria. I'll go over the first 3 as they all work together on the same theme. Amendments to the zoning map should be in accordance with the comprehensive future land use map, which I'll show that here in a minute. Amendments to the zoning map should be in accordance with the goals and policies found in the Post Falls comprehensive plan. In your staff report, I went into a lot more detail how it is consistent with goals and policies in the Post Falls comprehensive plan, which it is. We also look at street classifications, traffic patterns, existing development, future land uses, community plans, and geographic or natural features that may affect the site and whether or not it may encourage a balance of land uses for Post Falls. So in your staff report, you can see that the engineering division commented regarding the street classification and traffic patterns. There was no real issues there. Existing development near there. You have a bunch of R1 zoned properties, a bunch of single family homes. The R2 zoning is a transitional zone, typically from the R1 to higher uses or higher intense corridors. Here you have I-90 just to the south. And so this isn't an unusual occurrence. In fact, it's actually more unusual to see single family next to an interstate than to see multifamily or other higher uses next to an interstate. You can see just to the west, there's an R3 zone at the dead end of Corbin Road. There's no known community plans for this, and there's no known geographic or natural features that would inhibit the proposal. Looking at the future land use, you can see here, it's proposed as being residential, and R2 would be consistent with that future land use designation. So the last 3 that we're looking at is commercial and high density residential zoning is typically assigned along streets with higher road classifications. I kind of alluded to that when I was going over the previous slides. You're looking at an interstate, and although you don't have direct access like you would maybe on 41 and some intersections for commercial, you do have the impact of that interstate via noise, air, different polluting type activities along I-90 that generally you have higher end uses mitigating or buffering that to your lower densities. That kind of leads to the next criteria. Limited or neighborhood commercial and lower density residential zoning is typically assigned for properties as they proceed further away from higher intense urban activities. Because generally speaking, like I mentioned, you don't stick single family right next to a major interstate or roadway, you buffer that. And the policy point kind of drives that home that you would generally see your single family not in this location, but further out. Industrial zoning is the last criteria. They're not asking for that, and it really wouldn't be applicable. Looking at the agencies routed, here's the list. The Post Falls Police Department and the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue commented, and they are neutral on that. So any comments for me at this point regarding the proposed change from R1 to R2?
Any questions of John?
Quick question, John, what's the density difference between R2 and R3?
The R2 and R3, the max you really, I mean, you can get on, typically it's 12 units per acre for your R2 max. And for your R3, it's 18 units max.
Okay, that answers my question.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Go ahead. Name for the record, please.
Yes, this is Roger Glusser with ACE Solutions, 609 North Calgary Court, Post Falls, Idaho.
Thank you.
And we, first of all, thank you, Mayor and City Council and City staff. We do agree with the staff report that was just read. We do agree that we do meet all 6 criteria to ask for the increased zone change. A couple of things I'd like to point out that John did point out, but I would highlight is this property is adjacent to I-90 with a higher density multifamily type product in there for development. It would help buffer some of the residential housing that's already in place. Obviously there will be no more expansion going south there. We are up against I-90. Also, the property to the east of Elm at the end of the street there already is a duplex. It already is a multifamily use. So we think that really the best type of development for this property at the end of Elm next to the freeway is a higher density use. Right now, the property has a double wide mobile home on it, and it's pretty much undeveloped or it's not really taken care of. It's kind of a field, dry weed type field. And with this development, they would be able to come in and put in some nice multifamily type product in there, do some landscaping, clean it up, make it look nice, probably fence adjacent to I-90 to help buffer it, as well as the product that they would put in there would help buffer the residential development that's already in place. I think that's about all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Shannon, anyone wishing to testify?
We have none.
With that, I will close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to act?
I think it's ironic that we talk about the fact that we don't like to have single family up against the freeway, but we will put multifamily. But that being said, it does meet the criteria, and I would move to approve the Elm Road zone change RZNE 0004-2019.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wolf.
You were muted, Al. One more time.
Yeah, aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item up is unfinished business, returning ordinances and resolutions, and we have several tonight. First would be the Tedder annexation.
I would move to place the ordinance Tedder annexation file number ANNX-0013-2019 on its first and only reading while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Motion passes. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, annexing property consisting of approximately 10.085 acres located in the northwest quarter of Section 12, Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian, Kootenai County, Idaho, and zoning the annexed property single-family residential R1, providing for amendment of the official zoning map, and providing for an effective date here.
Move to approve the ordinance Tedder annexation file number ANNX-0013-2019 to ask the clerk to assign the appropriate number and let it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is the vacation of Tennessee Avenue.
Move to place the ordinance vacation Tennessee Avenue file number VACA-002-2020 on its first and only reading while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the vacation of the easement situated in the northwest quarter of Section 27, Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian as described herein, providing for disposition of the vacated easement, providing repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing an effective date, and providing for other matters properly relating thereto.
Move to approve the ordinance vacation Tennessee Avenue file number VACA-0002-2020 to ask the clerk to assign the appropriate number and let it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up is vacation 10th Avenue.
Move to place the ordinance vacation 10th Avenue file number VACA-0001-2020 on its first and only reading while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for the vacation of rights-of-way situated in the southwest quarter of Section 34, Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian, as described herein, providing for disposition of the vacated rights-of-way, providing repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing an effective date, and providing for other matters properly relating hereto.
Move to approve the ordinance vacation 10th Avenue file number VACA-001-2020 to ask the clerk to assign the appropriate number and let it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Linda, the next one you declared the conflict on, is that correct?
Yes,
Can I
sir.
have someone else make the motion on the Wildflower Meadows zone change?
Unfortunately, I don't have the wording, but I would make
I
a
do.
motion to approve.
It's, the wording, may I read it, Mr. Wilson?
Sure, you could read that and have one of the council members adopt what you just said.
Thank you. Move to place the proposed ordinance Wildflower Meadows zone change on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
I so move.
And I'll second.
Thank you very much. Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for change in zoning classification for the land described in section 1 of this ordinance from single-family residential R1 to medium-density multifamily R2, providing for amendment of the official zoning map to reflect this change, providing that all prior zones applicable to lands described in section 1 are hereby superseded, providing an effective date.
Thank you. And the next motion would be to approve the proposed ordinance, ask the clerk to assign the appropriate number, and that it be published by summary only.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up is a clarifying water and sewer capacity fee.
Move to place the ordinance clarifying water and sewer capacity fees and repealing subsequent users on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the City of Post Falls, Kootenai County, Idaho, amending municipal code sections 13.12.020, 13.16.040, and 19.04.040 to clarify that water and sanitary sewer capacity fees and impact fees will be based on the fee resolution in effect at the time of permit application, repealing Title 13, Chapter 40, subsequent user fees, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing severability, providing for the publication of this ordinance by summary, and providing an effective date.
Move to approve the ordinance clarifying water and sewer capacity fees and repealing subsequent user fees, to ask the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Wolf,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And the last ordinance is on Tranquil Meadows annexation.
Move to place the ordinance Tranquil Meadows annexation file number ANNX-0014-2019 on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Did you say Thorson? Aye.
it said Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, annexing property consisting of approximately 4.9 acres located in the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 28, Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian, Kootenai County, Idaho, and zoning the annexed property single-family residential R1, providing for the amendment of the official zoning map, providing for an effective date hereof.
Move to approve the ordinance Tranquil Meadows annexation file number ANNX-0014-2019 to ask the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders,
Couldn't hear you, Shannon.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is new business, and that is the non-connected sewer users policy. Mr. Beecham.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is more or less a housekeeping policy, trying to provide some guidance to staff for what to do when we uncover a sort of unique situation. In the past, our city code required anybody within reach of sewer to pay a sewer fee once the sewer went down their street, they were required to start paying the sewer fee, whether they were connected or not. Our code has since changed based on the advice. If somebody's not receiving a service, we should probably not charge them a fee for that service. That's from our legal department, and it makes good logical sense. With that, we occasionally come across somebody who is paying this fee and did not realize they were paying it and would like to stop paying it and would also like their money back. Our legal answer to that is we're potentially obligated to reimburse that up to 2 years, which is usually an unsatisfactory answer for the customer. They've oftentimes been paying into this for 10 or more years. So what we've done in the past is basically offered them a credit toward a capacity fee, or in a couple of unique situations, we've actually helped them get a connection installed, helped them with the cost of getting that connection installed to their house, with the goal of using that money toward getting them onto the sewer system that they've been paying into for the whole time. So this basically provides 3 options for people. They can either accept a capacity fee toward their account to use either now or at some point in the future. They can have us, if they have a capacity fee, we can help up to the amount that they have contributed in the past, that we can document that they've paid in fees, and we can help them toward construction of a connection. Or if they don't want to do those things, they can have 2 years of their money back, which is, as I understand it, our obligation, the limits of our obligation.
Thank you, John. Any questions, John?
John, isn't this kind of a motivation to get these people off septic?
It could be. They get more money, so to speak, if they go off septic. They don't actually receive cash in either case. If they get the cap fee, that's not cash toward them. If they get help with the connection, that's not cash toward them. So if somebody's motivation is cash, this wouldn't be an incentive to get off septic. Our code has requirements elsewhere that if your septic tank fails and there's sewer nearby, you're required to connect at that time. So that's more or less covered under a separate section of code.
I guess that was my question, was when there's sewer available and somebody just says, well, I'm on septic, I don't want to connect. This has been kind of the stick, or the carrot to get them to connect and get off the septic, is that, well, you're going to pay for it either way.
I think that was originally part of the motivation to have that fee, and I don't know if I can ask Warren to weigh in on whether that's a good idea or not, but our advice was if we're not providing somebody with sewer collection service and sewer treatment service, we shouldn't charge them a sewer fee for that.
I'll jump in quickly. Excuse me. John is correct. When you have a fee for service, if you're not providing the fee, you really shouldn't be charging, or excuse me, if you're not providing the service, you shouldn't be charging them a fee for that service. It undermines the integrity of your overall fee structure. And so it's not a great practice to engage in, I don't think.
Thanks, Warren. Carrie?
Yeah, one of these property owners was here in Pioneer Ridge, in the original section of Pioneer Ridge. And he mentioned it, I'm thinking probably in the last year, and was going to work with the city. And so what this will do is that will allow that property owner to work with you and your department to find a resolution. And then if you can't come to one, then Shelley is able to come in and wave her magic wand.
Yeah, I think what it says is she can tell me to come up with a new answer.
Okay, or wave the magic wand, one or the other. But yeah, I think that's a logical thing, and I'm not sure whoever thought it was a good idea to charge a fee ongoing for years for services that we were not providing. So yeah, I think this is a good resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
I would, in response to Carrie's comments, we're not alone in this regard. Lots of cities over the years have done this practice. It's not unique at all to us. Like, my hunch is that at prior times, there was a different view on how fees were used. I'm not sure today that this type of a practice would survive legal challenge, but in years past, things were different.
Yeah, and when we first bought our home in Pioneer Ridge in '87, we were on septic. So we did that whole painful transition to sewer a few years later, connecting with the city. So yeah, I'm just glad that that's all in the past, so.
Any other questions or comments? We do, Al?
I was just going to move to approve the non-connected sewer users policy as written.
I'll second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Porters,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up tonight is administrative staff reports.
We have none tonight, sir.
Thank you. Followed by citizens issues. Shannon, anyone wishing to testify in citizens issues?
we have none.
Thank you very much. Mayor and council comments. I would just state that it's nice to see businesses starting to reopen or have that those that have reopened. I would encourage everybody to patronize them as much as you can, and also encourage you to maintain the social distancing and all the other protocols. But hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have pretty much everybody open again. So it's been a long haul. It's been a financial strain. I understand that, and I appreciate the impact it's had on people. So we're getting there, but thanks for all those who have helped us get to where we are at this point. Council comments?
I have a question and a comment.
Go ahead, Al.
I guess this is more for Warren, but last meeting, we had a discussion about the need for public hearings on subdivisions. Tonight, we had a issue that came forward based on a public hearing on a subdivision where it met all the criteria. We had a public hearing. People thought, hey, this is my opportunity to go in and say, I don't like this. And the reality is, I don't want to second guess planning and zoning, but we probably shouldn't have denied that. What do we need to do to get rid of the need for public hearings on subdivisions if we're not required by state law?
So, quick answer. We have a draft code that we're working on. We're hoping to get through the impact fee update, get the comprehensive plan adopted. We are working on an amendment to our subdivision code. That will be one thing that we will approach the council about at that point in time and see what your direction is, how you would like us to proceed. But we do have a draft that we're starting to work on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Warren. Carrie.
I just want to say, Shelley, I won't name all the names, but all of the people at City Hall there, now that it's open, but that have been making these meetings possible. There are so many moving parts, and as you saw, you know, it's hard keeping everybody, all the cats herded, but this is just phenomenal. In a matter of what, a month and a half or so, you know, several weeks from our first meeting in this format and to where we are today. Yeah, I applaud you all because I just want you to know that it's appreciated. We pop on here for an hour or so on a Tuesday and have a meeting. And I'm just aware that a lot of things have to happen before we ever get here. So thank you. Pass that along to everybody.
Thank you.
The downside of that is my wife is ready to move to Mexico.
They have internet there, Al.
I know.
I will pass your comments on to staff. Carrie, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I don't believe we need an executive session tonight.
We do not.
So the next meeting is? Our next motion is?
To adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
All right.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Bye.
Good night.
See you guys.